Welcome to Home Bees Beyond the Basics. Today, we're diving into the invisible world inside the hive, a place where the very air that seems toxic to us is actually the key to a colony's survival. So let's start with a really surprising fact. We're taught that fresh air is everything, but honeybees actually thrive in environments with carbon dioxide levels that are 100 times higher than the air we breathe. You see, this high CO2 atmosphere isn't a problem to be fixed. It's a critical, self-regulated feature that is absolutely essential to the colony's physiology and its defense. So, to understand why, we first have to look at the hive as a single, breathing organism and really appreciate the high energy cost of managing its internal atmosphere. Now, a common impulse for beekeepers is to increase ventilation, but this often comes with a very high metabolic price tag. Forcing more air through the hive also forces out heat, which means the colony has to burn through more honey and expend a ton of energy just to warm the cluster back up. This brings us to the hive's natural daily rhythm. The entire colony essentially breathes as one, following a circadian respiratory cycle, and you can see it on this graph. CO2 levels rise with activity and then fall during rest. This creates a metabolic pulse that continues, believe it or not, even through the dead of winter. Moving on, we can see how the colony actively weaponizes this high CO2 environment. It literally turns a metabolic waste product into a sophisticated tool for both defense and for propagation. And here is where it gets really interesting. There's a critical gap in sensitivity. Honeybees, during dormancy, can tolerate CO2 concentrations all the way up to 8.5%, but their number one enemy, the Varroa mite, simply cannot. This creates a natural mortality zone for the mites that the bees can comfortably live in. This exact principle is applied in winter management. By keeping the atmosphere at around 8.5% CO2 in cold storage, beekeepers can put the bees into a low metabolic coma state. At the same time, that same air acts as a lethal fumigant for Varroa mites. It's a natural, chemical-free miticide. But it's not just about defense. CO2 also functions as a crucial biological trigger. It's more than just an anesthetic. It's a signal that stimulates hormone secretion. It mimics the physiological state of a mating flight, and it ultimately tells the queen it's time to start laying eggs. This brings us to the technology that actually allows us to see these invisible atmospheric dynamics and, more importantly, makes them actionable for the modern beekeeper. We're talking about non-dispersive infrared, or NDIR sensors. These give us the tools for precise, real-time gas analysis right inside the hive. And for the best data, the optimal placement for that sensor is at the queen excluder, so you're directly measuring the breadth of the brood nest. This data gives us an incredibly powerful, non-invasive way to understand what's happening. Just look at how these two lines track each other. CO2 production has a direct correlation to the colony's mass. This means we can essentially weigh the colony with its own breath and estimate its size without ever having to open a hive. And perhaps most critically, this technology works as an early warning system. A healthy colony has a big daily swing, a high amplitude in its CO2 pulse. A steady decline in that amplitude, a flattening of this signal, is a direct indicator that a colony is failing. It can actually predict a collapse weeks before you'd ever see any physical signs. So what does all this data really mean for the way we manage our hives? Well, it leads to a new framework, one that's built on 4 key pillars of atmospheric control. These 4 pillars are straightforward. 1. Facilitate airflow in the summer to cut down on heat stress. 2. Embrace insulation in the winter to conserve energy. 3. Leverage that 8.5% CO2 threshold for therapeutic mite control. And 4. Use technology to monitor that CO2 amplitude as a direct proxy for your colony's health. At Home Bee, we believe that understanding and managing these atmospheric dynamics really is the future of sustainable beekeeping. If you found this information valuable, please subscribe to our channel to support our growth. Thank you for watching.